Hi, everybody, and welcome to this Google Hangout from Dice News. I'm Mark Pfeffer, the managing editor, and I'm joined today by Carl Baltrunas, who's a veteran systems analyst who's recently gone through a job search. And we're going to talk with him about it and get some observations and advice. Hi, Carl, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So let's just start with some background. Can you tell us about yourself and your career path?
Well, I started out as an architecture student, actually. And while I was at the university, I found they had computer systems and started taking all of the freebie little classes they were giving. So I came back in my fresh sophomore year and asked for a job working at the computer center. And from that point on, my career sort of took off where I started helping other people with their projects. And then I got into systems and operating systems programming. From that point, my career kept going to project management and other, not necessarily program-related issues or activities. So about 10 years ago, I reached the pinnacle, as a scientist in my career. And when the economy started to tank a little bit, my entire group got laid off. Mm-hmm. So I had to sit back and figure out what would be the best kind of job for me to get back into. And I was happiest as a programmer / developer. So I talked to a couple of friends and they suggested that I look at the iPhone as a platform to work on. And at the time, since I was out of work and I needed a new computer, I had to go out and scrounge for the cheapest possible computer I could come up with. And I did that and got everything up and working. And it took me about 3 months to go from not knowing anything about the iPhone to having enough skill to write my first application.
So what happened then after you got your first application and you got that experience? How'd you turn that into a job?
Well, at that point, I started going to meetup groups to network and find companies that I could actually meet somebody working at the company instead of just sending off resumes, because I found that sending resumes didn't get me anywhere. So I met a lot of people at the meetups, and then from there, I started applying for jobs as a novice iPhone developer or a systems developer with iPhone experience. And I met a lot of people, but I wasn't getting any job leads. What I did end up with was a job offer as a Linux tools developer. So at that point, I kind of put my iPhone stuff on hold and worked at that job for a year. When that job ended, I heard about this group called ProMatch, and I went to ProMatch to kind of learn more about myself and what kinds of job position I should be looking for. The biggest problem was I saw that they were looking for people with embedded experience, which I didn't think I had. It turns out that in retrospective, when I looked at my career, the previous 15 years, I had been working on embedded systems that were basically microcomputers that were networked to real computers. And so we did all of our work on the real computers and then downloaded everything to the networked computers. And that's effectively the same thing that the iPhone is doing. You develop on the Macintosh and then you load your code into the App Store or directly into the iPhone.
Okay. Hey, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So after my stint at ProMatch, I decided that I would focus exclusively on being an iPhone developer. And I was only taking job interviews or talking to recruiters about that kind of position. And after about 4.5 months of really hitting a lot of interviews, last year I took a full-time position as an iPhone developer.
Now, can I interject for 1 second and ask you, what is ProMatch? What can you tell me about them?
ProMatch is a group that helps people who are out of work. It's a partnership with EDD and another organization which is trying to help people get jobs.
Mhm.
And they have a program that takes about 6 weeks to get into, but then you can be in the program for about 6 months. And then they time you out because they figure you've learned enough to stand on your own.
Okay.
And what they do is they help you with interviewing skills and how to write your resume so that your resume tells more about your story so that you can actually get an interview.
Okay. And who's EDD?
EDD is the California Unemployment Department.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let's pick up where we were talking about on your job search. So you went through the program at ProMatch and used what information you got there to kind of
Right.
put a search strategy together. What happened then?
So from what I learned at ProMatch, my resume now had a much better feel for the kind of work I did. It showcased my talents, and it also showcased my accomplishments. So when you looked at my resume, right away you saw the companies I worked for and the things that I did for those companies rather than just look like a job description.
Okay.
The other thing that ProMatch helped with was bringing up my confidence when I came to talk to recruiters and talking to people during a job interview. Because when you're out of work, you start to get needy, and when you're needy, you don't interview well.
Now you said that they built up your confidence. What do you think was wrong with your confidence? Was it just because you were out of work, you were feeling that pressure, or have you always been a little hesitant to sell yourself and put yourself forward?
A little of both. In my career, because I was generally a stellar performer, once I got a position or I was working with a group of people, I was usually praised by them enough that I didn't have to go looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 years ago was a real shift in figuring out what to do with my job and what kind of a job to look for. Prior to that, every job I had, I either just walked into or somebody called me up and said, hey, we like what you're doing where you are. How would you like to come work here?
Okay.
So I never really had to interview.
Got it. Okay. So how'd your job search end, or what was sort of the final phases of it?
Well, my current job search, I went through a number of ups and downs. Right after I was laid off this year, I actually landed a couple of interviews within the first 2 weeks. And a couple of those looked promising, but then things started to dry up. And I was beginning to worry that the reason things were drying up was not that my skill set wasn't needed. It was that once I got to the in-person interview, they saw that I was an older worker, and they decided that, well, maybe he's not the good fit with our team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that we learned about at ProMatch is companies really need to sit back and take notice of the older, more mature worker in terms of the experience I have. One of the things as an experienced worker that I do or bring to the table is that I know a lot of things not to do, things that used to work 10 years ago but don't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas somebody coming out of school and popping into a job today, they still have to learn all those mistakes that I've spent years learning.
Right. So you can work more effectively right out of the gate, essentially.
Correct.
Right. So how did you sell them on that?
Well, mostly I sold them on the fact that here I am, somebody who isn't taking classes today in terms of, just coming out of school. And I've been able to pick up this technology just by reading books and practicing it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was showing them that as a mature worker, I'm able to pick up new technology. And a lot of that is not because I can read the new technology and understand it just because I'm studying that one technology. It's because I have these years of experience behind me where I've worked with so many different languages, so many different platforms, that this is just, in some sense, another platform, another transformation of the work that I've already done before.
Okay. And they accepted that.
And they accepted that.
So what happened?
So I interviewed at probably about 20 different companies in the last 6 months. And the last company that I've been dealing with they have a very long hiring process, and it's actually taken 4 months from sending them my first resume to going through about 3 series of interviews and then reviews of the interview data.
Mm-hmm.
And this week I got a job offer.
That's great.
I'm not sure if I'm at liberty to tell you what company.
Okay, I was going to ask. Is it somebody that we would know of if you told us?
Oh yeah, I can. I mean, I can tell you. It was just a question if I didn't know if you wanted the company name on.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it's Yahoo.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, that's great news, obviously.
Yeah, I actually interviewed with them twice. One for an iPhone developer position, which is what I've been doing for the last 3 years, and the other position, which is actually the one that I'm being hired for, is in their infrastructure group. So I'll be working on their internal systems and keeping things running, and mentoring other up and coming programmers in that group.
Oh, okay, that sounds great. So what are the lessons? I mean, what's the advice that you would give to other people who are out there, looking for a job right now? What did you learn from this whole experience?
The biggest thing I got from all of this is that as a more mature worker, you have to stay involved in your industry. You can't just say, okay, I'm not working now. I have to send resumes out and try and find a job. You have to stay involved, get involved with some industry groups, attend meetings. Like there's meetup.com, which has lots of meetings on all kinds of topics. I've been attending meetup groups for iOS developers for the last 3 years. And in those groups, I'm basically meeting people, getting myself out there, having that personal contact with other people who are working in the industry that I want to work in.
Mm-hmm. That's hard.
Go ahead.
No.
The second thing is to keep up your own skills. So while you don't have a job, take some projects and work on them in your spare time between your job search activities, so that while you're doing that, you can show that, hey, I'm not working for somebody, but I'm able to write this program or develop this project or manage this system, so that when I have a new job, I still have fresh skills.
Okay. And there's a lot of people out in technology who really don't like the idea of networking, which is really what you're talking about, going out to meetup groups
Mm-hmm.
and talking to other people. Did you have that problem? And if you did, how'd you overcome it?
I did and I didn't. I had the problem because there was a fear, and that fear has been built up that all my life I thought I was an introvert because I like to sit down and be by myself and work on projects by myself. But one of the things that I learned at ProMatch, they had a class on using your different skills, and it was sort of geared on one of the psychology tests, the Myers-Briggs system.
Mm-hmm.
And in there, you got to see what type of personality you have, what type of person you are, and what kind of, how you use your skills in day-to-day life.
Okay.
And in there, I found out that I'm sort of borderline introvert, borderline extrovert, but I'm kind of at either extreme. So sometimes I feel like I'm an introvert and I want to focus on what I'm working on, and other times I feel like I'm an extrovert because I like to do things with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And from the workshop I took, what I learned was that if you gain energy by being with other people, then you're an extrovert. If being with other people makes you feel really nervous and you start getting not hyperactivity, but you feel that like your body is shutting down, then you're an introvert.
Okay.
And so I found that I was really an extrovert, and it wasn't that I liked to network and try to go to a network event to try and get a job, but I liked going to events where I got to meet people and talk about, well, what am I doing and what are they doing? And that's really what networking is about. It's not trying to meet people just so that you can advance your career. It's trying to meet people and in effect become friends with them.
Okay. So it's really not about asking favors. It's about just getting to know people. So you've
Right.
got a relationship.
Yeah, if you go to networking events just trying to meet people so that you can ask for favors, you kind of get shunned after a while because people aren't really going to those events just looking to do favors for people.
Right.
They're there really to meet people, and that's why going to a meetup group that's interested in the kind of technologies or activities that you're interested in is the way to network rather than necessarily just going to business network events.
Okay. Let's talk about ProMatch for a little bit. Did you find going to an organization like that and going through their program was useful?
Parts of it I found were a little boring to me because I had learned some of the technologies and learned how to work with people. But what I found that was good about it was it actually brought out the social part of doing something with other people,
Mhm.
that you're not the only person in your situation. And so you had, I wouldn't say someone to commiserate with, but you had people that you could learn from. You could talk to somebody else who had the same problems you had and learn how they overcame some of them.
Okay. And you said at one point that working with ProMatch sort of boosted your confidence and gave you more confidence.
Right.
How did that happen? How did you get that extra confidence?
I think a lot of it had to do with uh, there were two key things that I did well at ProMatch. I took in the information and I was able to immerse myself in the activities that ProMatch had for us. And by immersing myself in the activities and actually working through the different workshops with other people, I kind of loosened up and I overcame the fears of, what do other people think of me while I'm trying to do this? Should I worry about what people think about me, that I'm not doing my best or what I don't feel my best is? Well, it turns out that everybody in a learning situation isn't necessarily doing their best.
Mhm.
And when you work with a group of people and you learn that, well, I don't know this and he doesn't know that, but I do know this and he does know this other thing, and together we can accomplish a lot more than we could by trying to work individually.
Okay, great.
The other thing that I really learned and pushed with was near the end of my time at ProMatch, I got a lot more involved with the networking group in terms of teaching and helping other people learn how to network and how to get into a networking situation without being very fearful of the situation.
Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate your taking the time to talk with us. Congratulations on your new job. I think that's
Thank you.
obviously the great outcome that everybody's looking for.
Yeah, so am I. I've been very excited all week since I just got the job offer 3 days ago.
Well, I bet you're excited and congratulations again. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you, and I hope that uh, I'm able to give people some information that they're not stuck. There's always something that you can do, and by getting involved, that's the easiest way to get out there and make yourself available to get a job.
Well, Carl Baltrunas, thanks very much again. And to everybody else who's joined us, thanks very much for watching. If you've got questions you'd like to see us answer either on the Dice News blog or on another Hangout, send us an email at editor@dice.com. We'll take a look and get back to you. Thanks again for watching. Carl, thanks again for being here, and
Thank
we'll see
you.
you next time.
All right, take care.